Hello everybody, episode 14, season 3, The Green Effect podcast. Here we go. Man, there was no shortage of stuff to talk about on this episode. We start with the Tiffyboy, kind of monthly show around what he did or didn't do or promised to do or didn't promise to do. Then we talk about the Three Stooges being brought up in front of the standing committee, Galen and his two friends, around why, chips and soda and broccoli are so damn expensive. And then we talk about the Silicon Valley bank fiasco and what's going on. How is it going to impact us in Canada? Because there's impact. As we record this, Monday, March 13th, in the evening, we got impact. All right. So it has been an action-filled as finance gets, okay? It has been an action-filled past 7 days. You don't want to miss this episode. Let's get going.
Welcome to the Green Effect Podcast. Finance, life, business, and everything in between. And now, your host, Stephen Green.
Hello, everybody. Season 3, episode 14, the Green Effect Podcast. Let's go. I got stuff to talk about. So, the last week has been a roller coaster of economical crap going on. And it's just, it's almost like wow, this is great news. Oh, this is bad news. Oh, this is great news. Oh, this is bad news. But let's just start from the beginning because I can't even wrap my brain around all the crap that's gone on. All right. So let's just begin with Tiffyboy and company, because what's a good story without starting with that guy? All right. So this whole week starts, let's say the last 7 days, all starts with Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem and friends coming out with their interest rate announcement. For the first time in a long time, he actually predicted something correct. Bucko kept his promise, and he did not change interest rates. Okay? This is kind of big, but again, I mentioned this on social media. Shameless plug, if you don't follow me, make sure you follow me at SG Mortgage Advice at all my major social media handles. Anyway, I mentioned this. I don't know what's bigger news. The fact that they didn't move the prime lending rate, or Tiffyboy actually kept his promise, if it was a real promise, his actual prediction promise of not changing rates. And I give the guy a little bit of credit because, there were some headwinds here, right? And I think he could have moved it 0.25%, but he didn't. Jobs report came in higher than expected, not 150,000 higher, but I think 23,000. So the fact that he didn't change the rate, you know what? I give my buddy a little bit of a slap on the ass on this one. Good job, Bucko. Loving it. I love the commitment you're showing. I think it's fantastic. All right, so first Tiffyboy defies the odds, okay, and doesn't change the rate. And all of a sudden, Canada's feeling excited. Remember what I always say? As soon as there's hope, things will pick up a little bit. Yeah, there's other things that are happening, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. But there's hope, right? We didn't increase the rates. Holy crap, there's hope, okay? So I think it was a great decision. Now let's move on, okay? And I mentioned this on social media as well. If you're getting the sense that I'm trying to push my social media a little bit, you're a pretty sharp cookie there, okay? Then we fast forward to the three heads, the heads of the three families, the three CEOs of the major food corporations, okay? Weston Foods, the Sobeys Consortium, and the Metro Group. They were called in front of a standing committee in Ottawa, okay, to basically explain what is going on with the food prices in this country. Because, folks, Canadians are struggling, okay? Even if you've got a great income, you're probably still struggling quite a bit to make ends meet. And food costing a lot of money doesn't help at all. So they basically had the standing committee ask some really point-blank questions. Hey, Galen, what's going on with the $500 million in profit you made last quarter? Meanwhile, a thing of butter is $10. Not a word of a lie. $9.99 at Zehrs. Okay, just saying. So it was kind of a weird one because they kind of explained it a little bit. And I'm going to pick on Galen a little bit because what he cited, just to give a sense of how big these grocery companies are, Galen actually cited the fact that the Joe Fresh brand and the Shoppers Drug Mart, I forgot that they owned that, but that's really where a lot of these profits are made because there's a much larger profit margin there on those particular products. But he said in the grocery side, we make like $1 per $25 of groceries that Canadians buy. Now, is that extreme? Yeah, it kind of is. Do I buy that? Nah. I mean, is he going to lie? We can find out the answer, but I don't know. They explained it quite well, and it's not unreasonable. Now, Jasmeet Singh got all up in their business and basically called them out and said, look, you guys got to back off a little bit here because Canadians can't afford anything. But I don't know what they do here. Again, are we going to call bullshit and say, you guys are wrong, you guys can do better? I don't know. How are they different than the major banks making all this money, right? Charging $20 for a bank account per month. How is that different than the $9.99 stick of butter? I you know what I mean? I don't like it, but if it is more expensive and truly their profits are on their other labels outside of, you know, the ones that are actually selling food that you eat, I don't know. Throw this in the comments. I would love to know what you think because they came off quite convincing, even though Jasmeet Singh, again, NDP leader, really got up in their business on this. I don't know. It was kind of weird. They didn't... We forgot real quick about it. It's like they explained it and they walked away. And I kind of compare this to when Mark Zuckerberg got dragged in front of the U.S. Congress, okay, around Facebook and them basically reading your mind and then advertising to you. That really lingered. And that was, I don't know, arguably less of an issue than people eating food. Yes, I know US versus Canada. I get all that, but that just seemed a lot more important from a media and a attention standpoint. I don't know. What do you think about this? Do we say too bad you can only make 50 cents per $25 off our groceries? Like, are people buying that much makeup from Shoppers Drug Mart that the profit margins are that big? I don't know. What do you guys think? I would like to hear what you guys think on this topic. It's a tough one for sure. All right. Then moving on, because it kept getting better over the last 7 days, folks. It kept getting better. Friday night, we start to hear about this Silicon? We're going to go with Silicon. Silicon Valley Bank going under. Okay. This was going to trump all the news of the week. Not even Tiffyboy could overcome what was about to happen. Okay. Now, let me just explain what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, the historical impact, and what's going to happen going forward. And I'm recording this on a Monday evening, Monday, March 13th evening. Okay, so that's where we're updated on information on these guys. But let me explain really super high level. I don't want to hear criticism that you don't sound smart explaining this, but I'm going to try to explain this as simple as possible. Okay, so you got to understand in the US, it's not like it is up here. The banks down there, there's many of them. Okay, there's Ma and Pa banking group in Little Rock, Arkansas. Okay, they can have their bank. As long as they have a capital position, they can have a bank. No problem, right? Whereas up in Canada, we've got the big five, arguably six. They're heavily regulated. There's rules. You know, they got to follow the rules or they can't be a bank. Okay, the likelihood of a Canadian bank faltering is very, very slim. It has never happened. It didn't happen during a pandemic. The Canadian banks are relatively, barring what's going on in the world, they're relatively healthy. Okay, US, not as heavily governed. So What happened with Silicon, we're going to go Silicon, that's the pronunciation, Valley Bank in the US, they were very heavily invested in one particular area, and that was tech startup. Okay? Which in isolation is probably not that good, but it is what it is. Now, again, and this is where it's high level, I might butcher this a little bit, but it is what it is. So what happened was they had an enormous amount of money in government bonds. Okay, that's where they put their money to make a little bit of money off it. Well, when they brought in deposits, they lent out money to tech startups. Okay, but in the same time, that's what banks do. They bring in your money and then they lend it to other people, okay, to make money. They're paying you a little bit of money and then they're charging people a lot of money. Think about it this way. You get 1/16 of a penny on your savings account, but they're lending out loans at 8%, right? If you think of it that way, that's how a bank works, really, right? Well, what ended up happening is the bank kind of started to falter a little bit, okay, relative to the fact that their investments were treasury bonds, U.S. treasury bonds. Well, the U.S. Fed keeps jacking up rates, and when rates go up, your treasury bonds come down. So in order to raise some capital, they sold off their treasury bonds at a loss of $2 billion. And then they're like, shit, we need more money. What is that TikTok video? Shit, right? We need more money. They go out to try to get more money. People are like, well, let me see what's going on in your balance sheet. Find out that they've lost money and they're losing money because rates have gone up. And then all of a sudden, word starts to travel, right? That, hey, what's going on at Silicon Valley Bank, right? They can't raise the capital. Word gets out that they're low on money, okay? And then we have what we call just an old-fashioned run on the bank. So back in the day, if people found out maybe the bank was faltering, there were issues, they would literally go running to the bank and withdraw all of their money. Well, this is what happened on Friday and over the weekend. There was a run on the bank. They went running to the bank to withdraw their money, and then the bank didn't have all the money to give them, right? And I mean, technically speaking, are you going to have millions of billions of dollars to give people out the front door? You're not. But there was a run on the bank, okay? And again, I'm sure there's more detail. I'm giving this super high level. There's probably a better way to explain it, but this is the gist of it, okay? Well, then the stock price drops down to almost nothing, okay? Banks got no money, and then the feds have to step in, okay? So up here in Canada, we have CDIC, Canadian Deposit Insurance Corporation, and basically up to a certain amount, you are insured that if the banks ever do go belly up, you're going to get that money back, okay? Well, they have the same thing in the U.S. called FDIC, probably Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. I don't know if that's right. It doesn't matter. But they've stepped in and they've taken over the bank. CDIC, side note, CDIC took over the one branch of the Silicon Valley Bank here in Toronto. Okay, so they've been taken over. They're dealing with their thing, but that's a very, very small piece to the pie here. And they basically said down there, the FDIC said, look, we're taking over. You guys are shut down. We're going to give everybody back their $250,000 that you're insured for, even though some of these companies had millions with them. But we're going to give you your $250,000 back. Now, where does this create a big shitstorm? Very simple. Think of it this way. Let's say I'm Google. I know this wouldn't happen, but you know what? Follow me. Just amuse me for a moment, okay? Let's say I'm Google and I had $1 billion with the Silicon Valley Bank. FDIC says, hey, no worries, man. Here's your $250,000. If I can't get my money, imagine Google not making payroll this week because there's no money. A little scary, no? But then, more realistically, you have the smaller startups. Maybe 20 people work in there. Maybe some of them are they're being paid in shares until until their particular startup blows up a little bit. That's probably not a good joke at this point, but you know what I mean. So they're out of money. Now, what also happened, there was another bank that failed. I can't remember the name. I'm sorry. It's another U.S. bank, but they failed as well. Okay. This Silicon Valley Bank failure is the biggest since Lehman Brothers during the 2008 financial crisis. Okay, so two things happened today, Monday, March 13th, just to give you an update as to what happens next with a failing bank. Okay, a couple of things happened. Joe Biden got up, and I'm sure this is going to reassure nobody, but Joe Biden got up and basically had a press conference and said, don't worry about it. You're all going to get your money. Don't worry about it. We're on it from the fees we all pay. We're going to make sure everyone gets their money. Don't panic. Hey, you know what? When a bazillion-dollar bank fails, yeah, I think about a 5 to 15-minute press conference warrants it from the president. Yeah, that pretty much should that should do it. Thanks, Biden. Anyway, that happened today. The other thing that we're waiting to see what happens today is how this whole thing is actually going to get saved. Is somebody going to buy them? Ideally, if someone was smart, they'd buy that bank. There's a lot of clients in there that could bring you millions and billions going down the road. Okay. Does the government bail them out, like officially bail them out, right? Or do they just go belly up and that's it? The word of the weekend, the word of the day or over the weekend was contagion. How far is this going to spread? And nobody knows. So the next few days, we're going to see how big and bad this thing gets. Okay. The other story that's happening concurrently because of our friends south of the border. Our bond yield, 5-year bond yield prices dropped today considerably. That is basically the market's reacting. Okay. What does this mean? This means, and as you probably all know, I try to watch as many reputable outlets on social media. Canadians who know what the hell they're doing, okay? And talking about, not the guy who thinks the end of the world is tomorrow. But what I'm reading and what I'm seeing in the numbers, folks, are you ready for this? I hope you're all sitting down or you're stopped at a stoplight listening to this. We could see a rate drop. We're going to see probably fixed rates probably over the next couple of weeks come down, because what happens is when the bond yield comes down, fixed rates go with it. Okay. Now, are we going to see it like tomorrow? Probably not, because I know that banks are still working in funds for loan losses. So do they hold it up and say, look, we know bond prices have dropped. We're not going to drop fixed rates just yet because we're still trying to make some money for when, some of these mortgages default, right? So I think that's what's going to probably happen. But I read one person say, reputable, very reputable, we could see, again, are you ready for this? A prime rate drop by Bank of Canada by the summer, maybe 2 drops. Could you just wrap your brain around that? Can you imagine the Bank of Canada dropping interest rates? Now, what could stop this, or what could just screw this right up, every indication is the Fed is going to keep increasing rates in the U.S. So I don't know what's going to happen, but this is going to be one hell of a ride. I cannot wait to see how this progresses. Again, this is Monday, March 13th. This whole podcast could be null and void by tomorrow and make 0 sense because something happened, okay? But this is volatility at its finest in the market. Like, there's no other time I can, and listen, for those of you who are wondering, what age this beauty of a podcast host is, I'm 44. So I saw the 90s. I saw what happened. Hey, I was a work to rule kid. I saw Bob Ray days. Okay, I went through all that stuff. I went through the housing crisis. I went through the .com crash. Like, I saw all of that go on. I don't know if there's another time in history. Well, we had the Great Depression and World Wars, but modern history will say when things were this crazy and volatile. Okay, so man, we'll see what happens. I might throw in an extra podcast just to get everybody caught up on this soap opera, but or maybe Choose Your Own Adventure. Remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books? Like, I know I'm dating myself, but remember that? Go to page 8 if you want to see, little Sammy go through the forest. Like, go to page 10 if you want to see Silicon Valley come back from the dead. Like, it is going to be very interesting. So my comments to you are this. Obviously follow me on social media, because duh, is my first one. Second one is follow the bond yields in Canada. Okay. Third thing is try to see how markets are reacting to certain actions. Okay. So more to come on this. It's going to be interesting. It kind of makes the Galen Weston thing in front of the standing committee kind of seem like last year's news a little bit, doesn't it? Anyway, more to come. Like me, follow me. 5-star ratings are always where we want to be. Questions, and I do want to hear some of your comments as to what you think about what Galen and his friends did in front of the committee, because I'm torn on that one. All right? Talk to you guys soon, and love to hear your comments. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Green Effect Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Google Play so you catch the next episode. And don't forget to leave a review. Much appreciated.